You think Satan wants your money, your relationships, your future. But that's not what he's after. He wants your mind. Because if he controls your mind, he controls your life. You are losing a war you do not even realize you are fighting. And the terrifying part is this. Your greatest enemy may not be the devil standing outside your life, but the thoughts quietly ruling inside your mind. The battle that is destroying many destinies is not happening in public. It is happening in silence, in secret habits, in what you feed your eyes, in what you allow your ears to consume, in what occupies your imagination when no one is watching. Many people cry to God for breakthrough, for power, for victory, for freedom, yet they continue to surrender the battlefield of the mind. And if your mind is surrendered, your life will soon follow. This is a shocking truth many believers never confront. You cannot walk in spiritual victory while your mind remains enslaved. There was a time when fire burned in you. You remember it. The hunger was real. You desired prayer. You desired the presence of God. You longed to sit quietly and open the Word, not because someone forced you, but because something deep inside pulled you toward heaven. Worship moved your soul. Scripture felt alive. Moments alone with God became precious. There was life awakening in your spirit. Heaven was calling you upward, but then distractions came. Not always sinful distractions. That is how deception works. Sometimes it comes dressed as entertainment. Sometimes it comes as endless scrolling. Sometimes it comes as meaningless conversations that drain your soul but leave you laughing for a moment. Sometimes it comes through noise. Constant noise, music that feeds lust, content that feeds fear, gossip that poisons purity, ambitions that glorify self, pleasures that slowly numb the voice of God. Little by little, what once burned brightly began to fade. The hunger weakened, the fire cooled, the voice became faint. And now, many sit in church with deadened spirits, wondering why the God they once felt so near now seems distant. But heaven has not moved. You did. The truth is, there are laws operating inside every human being. One law is a desire for righteousness, that inner longing to please God, to live holy, to become what heaven designed. Even broken people feel it. Even struggling believers know it. Deep inside, there's a cry that says, I want more. I want freedom. I want truth. I want God. But there is another law at work, the law of sin, the pull of the flesh, the downward gravity of corruption that constantly drags your soul toward darkness. This is why many live frustrated lives. They want purity, yet return to impurity. They want discipline, yet remain chained to laziness. They want prayer, yet choose distraction. They want holiness, yet secretly feed unholy desires. They love God, yet battle appetites they cannot seem to conquer. And eventually, frustration whispers, you will never change. But that whisper is a lie, because Jesus did not come merely to forgive sin. He came to introduce another law, the law of the Spirit of life, a greater power, a stronger current, a divine force that breaks the dominion of darkness from within. This is not human effort. This is not self-improvement. This is supernatural transformation. It is life from God awakening inside a person until darkness loses its hold. But here is what many do not understand. You must cooperate with that life. When life in God draws you to prayer, respond. When life in God stirs you toward worship, respond. When life in God convicts you to separate from certain influences, respond. When life in God pulls you into silence and communion, respond. Because every ignored prompting weakens spiritual sensitivity, and every act of obedience strengthens divine life inside you. The mind is where this battle is won or lost. What you consistently behold becomes what you eventually become. If your mind feeds on lust, lust will shape you. If your mind feeds on fear, fear will define you. If your mind feeds on vanity, vanity will consume you. If your mind feeds on bitterness, bitterness will poison you. But if your mind feeds on truth, truth will transform you. If your mind feeds on the presence of God, the life of God will begin to rise in you like fire. This is why darkness fights so aggressively for your attention. It wants your focus because it knows attention becomes affection. Affection becomes desire. Desire becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. That is the strategy. Turn your mind from God, and eventually your soul will follow. This is why what seems harmless can become spiritually deadly. Not because everything is automatically sin, but because everything is shaping you into something. Every song is forming thought patterns. Every image is planting seeds. Every voice you constantly hear is building an altar in your mind. Every repeated habit is creating a pathway in your soul. And one day, you wake up living the thing you repeatedly entertained. That is why guarding your mind is not religious bondage. It is survival. Fill your mind with what gives life. Let worship become atmosphere. Let truth become language. Let wisdom become food. Let prayer become breath. Let purity become pursuit. Let God become your obsession. Some will call it extreme. Let them. The world is extreme about what destroys them. Be extreme about what gives life. There is a dimension of power many believers never touch because they stop at shallow Christianity. They attend services but never build secret history with God. They know sermons but do not know intimacy. They know religious language but not spiritual depth. They admire power in others but never cultivate communion for themselves. Yet the invitation remains. God still calls ordinary people into extraordinary life. He still awakens discernment. He still releases wisdom beyond human reasoning. He still transforms minds until fear becomes courage, confusion becomes clarity, weakness becomes strength, and ordinary people begin to carry uncommon authority. But it begins with surrendering the battlefield of thought. You must reject every lie that opposes truth. You must starve what feeds darkness. You must nourish what awakens life. You must become intentional with what enters your mind. You must choose daily what kind of person you are becoming, because your future is hidden in your mental devotion. Your destiny is connected to your inward focus. Your spiritual authority is tied to your thought life. And hear this clearly. The enemy is terrified of a mind fully yielded to God. A mind fixed on truth becomes stable in storms. A mind saturated with Scripture becomes dangerous to darkness. A mind disciplined in prayer becomes a channel for divine wisdom. A mind consumed by heaven becomes impossible for hell to manipulate. That is the believer Satan fears. Not merely the loud one, not merely the gifted one, not merely the popular one, but the one whose mind has been captured by truth and whose inner life burns with God. Win the battle in your mind, and you will watch victory begin to manifest in every other area of life. Lose the battle in your mind, and no outward success will save you from inward ruin. So choose. Will your mind be an altar to distraction or a dwelling place for divine life? Will your thoughts be ruled by flesh or transformed by spirit? Will your attention be owned by darkness or consecrated to truth? The battle is already happening. The war is already raging. And the decision you make in secret will shape the person you become in public. Guard your mind. Feed your spirit. Respond to life. Cooperate with God. And become everything heaven placed inside you to be. Because the battle against your mind is the battle you must win.